Have you ever looked back at a decision you made in your 40s or 50s and felt that sinking feeling in your chest? Maybe it was a financial risk that didn't work out. Maybe it was a relationship that ended badly. Maybe you walked away from something stable, chasing a dream that collapsed. And now you sit there thinking, at this age, I should have known better. Midlife mistakes feel heavier than the ones we made in our 20s. Back then, we believed we had endless time to recover. Now, every misstep can feel like it costs us years we can't get back. The pressure is different. The responsibilities are bigger. The expectations from others and from ourselves are higher. But here's the truth that doesn't get talked about enough. Making big mistakes in midlife does not mean your story is over. It means you're human. And more importantly, it means you still have the power to respond. In this video, we're going to walk through 5 practical steps to accept what happened, fix what you can, and move forward with strength, not by pretending it didn't hurt, not by rushing the process, but by facing it honestly and choosing growth over shame. Let's begin with something that feels simple but is often the hardest step of all: full acceptance. Acceptance doesn't mean you approve of what happened. It doesn't mean you stop caring about the consequences. It simply means you stop arguing with reality. Many people in midlife stay stuck because they keep mentally negotiating with the past. If only I had, why didn't I, this shouldn't have happened. That inner argument drains your energy. It keeps you tied to a moment that cannot be changed. I once spoke with a man in his early 50s who had lost a large portion of his savings in a failed investment. For 2 years, he replayed the decision in his mind. He blamed himself. He blamed the market. He blamed the advice he received. But none of that brought his money back. The turning point came when he said quietly, "This happened. I can't undo it. So what now?" That sentence marked the beginning of acceptance. Acceptance creates emotional space. When you stop fighting the past, you free up energy for the present. You begin to think clearly instead of emotionally, and clarity is powerful. The second step is separating your mistake from your identity. After 40, we often believe our decisions define us permanently. If a business fails, we think, "I'm bad at business." If a marriage ends, we think, "I'm terrible at relationships." If we make a poor career move, we think, "I ruined my future." But a mistake is something you did. It is not who you are. This distinction is critical because when you label yourself as a mistake, your confidence collapses. You avoid new opportunities because you assume you will fail again. You shrink your goals because you no longer trust yourself. A woman I once worked with had left a stable career to start her own venture at 45. Within 3 years, it failed. She felt embarrassed and ashamed. For a while, she avoided networking events and professional conversations because she didn't want to admit what happened. But when she began to see the venture as an experiment that didn't succeed, rather than proof that she was incapable, her posture changed. She started talking openly about what she learned. Ironically, that honesty made others respect her more, not less. When you separate your identity from your mistake, you give yourself permission to try again. The third step is taking responsibility without drowning in guilt. Responsibility is empowering. Guilt, when it becomes excessive, is paralyzing. Taking responsibility means acknowledging your part honestly. Maybe you ignored warning signs. Maybe you rushed into a decision. Maybe you avoided hard conversations. That honesty matters because it shows maturity. But there's a difference between saying, "I made a poor choice," and saying, "I am a failure." One builds strength. The other destroys it. Midlife gives you something younger years did not: perspective. You can look back and see patterns. You can see where emotion overrode logic. You can see where fear stopped you from asking for help. This insight is valuable if you use it wisely. Instead of punishing yourself endlessly, ask better questions. What did this teach me about how I make decisions? What signs will I watch for next time? What skill do I need to strengthen so I don't repeat this? When you move from self-attack to self-inquiry, growth begins. As you practice acceptance, separate your identity from your mistake, and take responsibility in a balanced way, you'll start to feel something unexpected: relief. Not because the consequences disappear, but because you stop carrying unnecessary emotional weight. And when that weight begins to lift, You're finally ready to shift from acceptance into action, not frantic action driven by fear, but steady, intentional steps that rebuild your confidence piece by piece. Once you accepted what happened and stopped defining yourself by it, the next natural question becomes, how do I fix this? That question can feel overwhelming, especially in midlife when responsibilities are high and the margin for error feels smaller. The fourth step is focusing on repair, not perfection. When we make a big mistake, our instinct is often to fix everything at once. If we lost money, we want to recover it immediately. If we damage a relationship, we want it fully restored overnight. If we hurt our reputation, we want instant redemption. But real repair rarely happens in giant leaps. It happens in steady, deliberate steps. I remember speaking with a man who had damaged his relationship with his adult son after years of emotional distance. When he realized the depth of the gap, he felt ashamed. His first instinct was to have one big conversation and solve everything. But healing didn't work that way. It began with small, consistent efforts, regular calls, listening without defending himself, showing up to events. Over time, trust slowly rebuilt. Repair is about consistency, not drama. If your mistake was financial, repair might mean creating a realistic repayment plan, even if it takes years. If it was career-related, repair might mean updating your skills gradually and rebuilding credibility through small wins. If it was personal, repair might mean showing changed behavior over time instead of making grand promises. Small actions repeated daily are more powerful than one intense burst of effort. The fifth step is rebuilding self-trust. This is the part many people overlook. After a significant mistake, the biggest damage is often internal. You stop trusting your own judgment. You second-guess yourself constantly. Even simple decisions feel heavy. Rebuilding self-trust starts with keeping small promises to yourself. If you say you'll wake up at a certain time, do it. If you say you'll complete a task, follow through. These may sound minor, but they are powerful. Each completed promise is a brick in the foundation of confidence. A woman in her late 40s once told me she felt incapable of making good decisions after a painful divorce. She doubted everything. Instead of trying to make huge life changes, she focused on daily discipline. Exercise 3 times a week. Manage her budget carefully. Read regularly. Over time, as she honored her commitments, her confidence returned, not because someone reassured her, but because she proved to herself that she was reliable. Midlife mistakes shake your identity. Small wins restore it. As you focus on steady repair and rebuild your self-trust, something shifts inside. The mistake that once defined your present becomes part of your past. You no longer wake up every day reliving it. Instead, you begin building something new. And that's where the final step comes in, the one that turns your experience from a burden into an advantage. There's a quiet strength that can emerge after you face a big mistake honestly. It's not loud. It's not boastful. It's grounded. And it comes from knowing you survived something difficult and chose to grow instead of hide. The final step is turning your experience into wisdom that shapes your future. Every mistake carries insight. Maybe it taught you to slow down before making financial decisions. Maybe it showed you the importance of communication in relationships. Maybe it revealed how fear was influencing your choices. When you extract a lesson fully, the mistake stops being wasted pain. It becomes earned wisdom. A man I know lost his company in his late 40s. It was devastating. But over time, he realized a failure had exposed weaknesses in how he managed stress and delegated responsibility. When he eventually started another venture, he approached it differently. He built stronger systems. He asked for advice. He protected his health. His first failure became the foundation for smarter leadership. That is the power of reflection. At this stage of life, you have something incredibly valuable: experience. Even painful experience is an asset if you choose to learn from it. Remember, making a big mistake in midlife does not disqualify you from future success. It prepares you for it, if you let it. Even the smallest change today can alter your direction. One honest conversation, one disciplined habit, one new skill. These actions compound over time. If this message resonates with you, I'd love to hear your story. What mistake taught you the biggest lesson? What are you rebuilding right now? Share it in the comments. Your honesty could help someone else who feels alone in their struggle. And if this conversation encouraged you, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. There are so many people over 40 quietly carrying regret and shame, believing they're the only ones who messed up. Let's remind each other that growth doesn't stop at midlife. Your mistake is not the end of your story. It's a chapter, and you are still holding the pen. Wishing you the courage to accept your past, the strength to repair what you can, and the confidence to move forward wiser, steadier, and more determined than ever.